It's a wonderful day to have our missions team back with us from Costa Rica. They got in last night somewhere around 2, quarter till 2, and they're here this morning. And some of you didn't get to bed until about 11, and you can't make it. If the shoe fits, wear it, Cinderella. I did that just for you. Oh, my. I'm going to turn this part of the service over to the missions team, Brother Jason, our missions director, that's doing just a bang-up, wonderful job. People are trying to steal him from us. And I'm not going to let them have him. I've already told one of the pastors, I'll fight you. And I will. I grew up on the streets. I win. My dad always told me, he said, if you can't whip him with your fist, get something that you can whip him with. So I tell Pat, I'll fight you. I appreciate this guy. He's a man of God. That's awesome. Just share, brother.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, team, if you guys will come on up here. Come on. Yeah. Y'all got on a plane with me. Get on the stage with me. Come on. So, for those of you who don't know, we were in Costa Rica. Oh, well, before I go down that path, let me just say that God planted me in this church, and I don't intend on leaving. So it don't matter how many of them recruit me. This is where God planted me, and I'm honored to be a part of this team here. So, yeah, I ain't got nothing to worry about. Lord told me years ago, this is my church. So I'm here. So we went down to Costa Rica. We left last Saturday. Yeah, forgive me. It's a 2 o'clock in the morning kind of arrival home. So we'll be a little groggy this morning. We'll do our best. But so we left last Saturday, and we spent a week down there and did a lot of really cool things. So what I would like to do as these guys are moving around, getting some seating for everyone, I believe Mr. Willie in the booth has a video queued up. This will give you guys a glimpse into what our week has been. So if you will, roll that beautiful bean footage.
How he loves us, how he loves us all.
All right, guys, y'all have a seat. We're going to be here for a while. So let me just give you a brief synopsis of what our week included. So we flew in, and we spent the day Sunday with Dave and Amy Cartwright. We enjoyed who are our missionaries in Costa Rica. And we enjoyed a wonderful lunch in their house and got to know them and their family a lot better. And we really enjoyed our time. It was great for our team to get to put a face and a life and a personality with the missionaries that we support in this church, and we've supported for a good while. And then we prepared for work Monday. And what we spent our days Monday through Thursday doing, we're working on a project. It's a rescue shelter for women who have been either trafficked or are coming out of a life of prostitution, a place for victims to be restored. So in Costa Rica today, there is no long-term care facility in the entire nation. There's nowhere. So Bob and Michelle Perez are 2 other AG missionaries who are appointed to Costa Rica, and their sole purpose is in rescuing victims of human trafficking. And so they actually go on raids, they go on stings, and they're part of the intake process as soon as they bring these women out. I mean, they're usually in the brothels and in the bars interviewing right in the midst of the sting to figure out all the information they can and try and get these women to a safe place. But today the only safe place options are 1 and 2 night kind of options. So it's very much a short-term care. And so recognizing that this is a problem, the Costa Rican government set aside some funding and began a partnership with an organization called the Rahab Foundation. And the Rahab Foundation, their whole mission is to rescue victims of human trafficking. And so the Assemblies of God then partnered with Rahab, and they were able to acquire this farm. And it's about a 6-acre tract of land high up on a mountain that's very difficult to get to. You saw me when I was speaking, I was breathing pretty heavy. We were higher there than anywhere you'll be on the east coast of our country here. The air was a lot thinner. If you've never been in thin air, it's rough. Of course, if it did more cardio, maybe it wouldn't be so rough. I don't know. But anyhow, so this farm is located way up on a mountain, and the land was donated by the Costa Rican government, and now it's up to Rahab and the Assemblies of God to build the property and to operate the property. So the Rahab Foundation will bear the burden of the operations, but the Assemblies of God is helping to get the project started and built. And so what we were working on is we worked on a number of tasks on the project. We had 2 guys who are contractors by trade, and there's a little caretaker's house on the property, and so those 2 gentlemen spent the majority of their 4 days in that house, bringing it up to, I guess, doing the punch list of items that other teams had got as far as they could, and then our guys were going in kind of doing some of the final details on it so that it'll be ready for a caretaker to move in, probably in June of 2017. We had other members of our team that, as Derek said, chiseled a building out of concrete. So a team had come down and they poured concrete bond beams that hold the walls together, and the beams were not in line with the block, and so in order to finish the walls, everything needs to be smooth. So we had members of our team every day up on that building just chiseling away pieces of concrete. And Kel Gringa here, we've renamed him Thor because he broke 2 chisel hammers, broke the handles clean off. Had to finally get him one made of steel so that he couldn't break it. While they were doing that, we had other members of our team that were painting anti-corrosive paint onto some beams that will serve as the roof structure for that building, and then the rest of us were in the hole. When we arrived, we knew we would be digging footers for a foundation, but we didn't know what Costa Rican footers looked like. And so what our first task was, we spent kind of our first day and a half was skimming off the topsoil and the grass from approximately, I think we calculated a 4,600 square foot building. So we were able to skim 3/4 of it off, and then we decided that we could find funds for a backhoe. And we saw a backhoe down the road, and our missionary got tired of hearing us ask about backhoes. And so he talked to the contractor, and the contractor got a backhoe up there, and we paid the guy $30 an hour to finish. So what the backhoe allowed us to do is to finish leveling the pad, because that's something that our team could not have completed before we left. And while he was busy leveling the pad, the rest of our team began hand digging the footers, which were 3 foot wide and ultimately 80 inches deep. Now, yeah, fortunately, I can be evangelistic now. The backhoe took care of like the first 3 feet of those 80 inches, but we took care of the rest with our backs. And to kind of put that in perspective, Kel did the math for me, and what our team did by hand with shovels and wheelbarrows was we moved 201 tons of material. Wow. 201. That's how many dump truck loads do we calculate that would be? About 10 dump truck loads is what we did in roughly 3.5, 4 days of digging. We had to combat the rain because this is the rainy season. What brilliant missions director sends his team to a rainforest to dig in the rain? I don't know. Amen. The soil was soft. But so that's the construction focus of our team. And then the women, they got to take off the job site one day, and they went into an area of San Jose called Linda Vista, which means beautiful view. And they worked with the Chicas de Promesa program, which if you were here back in March, Jay and Nancy Dickerson stood on this stage and talked about their work with Chicas as a part of the Latin American Christian School Network. There's a LACC school in Linda Vista, and they had a high rate of sexual abuse, and the missionary in that area got tired of the reporting, And so we had to do something. And so they started doing statistical analysis, which is where I get excited because I'm a data analyst by trade. And they determined that the majority of the abuse was occurring while mom was at work and the daughter was at home by herself. And so they said, well, hey, we can fix that. Let's make a place for daughter to go when she's not in school. And when they did that, the cases went from somewhere in the ballpark of 3 cases per week to 0 cases per week. It's amazing what God has done through that program. In fact, it was so shocking that the Costa Rican government came in and asked, why did you stop reporting? They said, we stopped reporting because it stopped happening. Just praise the Lord for that. And so our ladies went to go work with those young ladies that are in that program to inspire them to see their inner beauty. And it was a really beautiful experience. So last year I talked way too much. And this year I have a larger team than I had last year. So I'm going to quit talking now. And I'm going to turn it over to my team. I asked each of them to say something about how this trip either impacted them or something about an experience they had. And I gave them all a maximum of 2 minutes. Hello does not count as fulfillment. Okay, I want to hear something inspirational. So as I pause to give them one more second in case they need to polish anything else, I did have something from Matthew 14 I wanted to share. Usually anytime I speak about missions, I use the iconic missions verse, Matthew 28:19. But since I can't read it without crying, I'm not going to read it today. You've heard it a lot from me. I'm going to share with you something I shared with our team on our last night in Costa Rica. For Matthew chapter 14, you'll find the story where Peter walks on water. Many of us are very familiar with that story. And I was reading it in Costa Rica. And the Lord showed me something kind of neat. In verse 28, Peter says, Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, he said. In missions, we often talk about go. That's Joel Marbut's one of my favorite missions promoters. He's a missionary to Ecuador, and he says, go, give, or disobey. Those are your 3 options as a Christian. You got to do one of the 3. I like Joel's perspective, but the Lord gave me a revelation. As you listen to our stories today, as you listen to their experiences, I'm going to ask you to listen for the word come. I'm going to ask you to open your ears, to open your heart, and allow the Lord to speak into your life. Because when he spoke to Peter, remember the story. Peter stepped out of a boat in the middle of a sea and stepped on water. Now, I've never tried that. I always knew every time I stepped out of a boat I was going to sink. This was a truly miraculous experience. One that took a lot of courage. One that took a lot of faith. Jesus said, come. The cool thing about come is Jesus invited Peter to somewhere that he already was. When Jesus said come, he was saying, I'm already out here. You come to me. So if you listen to us talk about these stories and maybe you feel your heart stirred, I understand the fear behind come. But as the Lord tells you to come today, remember, he's inviting you to somewhere he already is. He's not inviting you to somewhere he is not. He's inviting you to somewhere where he already exists. Okay? So I'm asking you today, every one of you, listen. The Lord may just tell you today to come. Who wants to go first? This here is my left hand. For most people, he would be my right hand, but I'm left-handed. So he is my left hand. Sean Barnes. Thanks, buddy.
Morning. You know, it's kind of interesting. We were building foundations, and this trip will mean something different to every single person you see on the stage. But to me, a lot of what we did was foundation work, whether it was the physical labor we were doing, whether it was building foundations in friendships, whether it was rebuilding our own foundations. I haven't had a missions trip have such a clear theme to me as this one did. There's a couple things I wanted to mention that kind of stuck out to me. One was how much I enjoyed with this particular mission trip getting to know our missionaries. We haven't had an experience or an opportunity like that to really enjoy getting to know the personality, the struggles, the likes and dislikes of the people that we were working with. And David and Amy Cartwright are two truly amazing people, and they're special to me now. I mean, I feel like they've invited me into their home and into their family, which is that in and of itself was an awesome experience. Getting to know the 12 people that are behind me, in addition to the 4 people from Freedom Center, a little bit better. I mean, that's something you can't get through another experience. You can't bond with someone in a similar way if you're, spending all your time with them, worshiping with them, sweating with them, bleeding with them. Although this was the first mission trip I've been on that I haven't gotten a scar from. A little disappointed about that. And then I wanted to point out this little pink envelope here. We started this practice with the Dominican trip. Mel has the girls from NGM write everybody a card, and we usually open it up about midweek. And it is a true emotional and spiritual refresher. Just that, you're halfway through the trip, you're tired, you're weary, and you get this little pink card. And it lifts you up in a way you don't expect. And to have it be from, one of my rainbows made me do this in the middle of breakfast. But, and then I just want to echo Jason's last sentiment, and invite every single person in this room to consider coming on a mission trip with us. You are not too old. You are not too weak. You're not too young. Although if you're under 18, we need to talk. The 2 gentlemen here that are part of the G-Men crew, they put some of us to shame. I'm going to be honest. Got more work out of them than we got out of some of the people half their age. But like I said, if you feel that tug on your heart, it'll be a week of labor. It'll be a week of long days and short nights and interesting food, but you will not regret it. I can promise you that. So, thank you.
Yeah, it was like all our mission trips, or each one of them has a special thing that we have to do. And every one of them are a little different. It's really cool. And some of us are the core group that's been on several of them, but, we had some new team members. And the testimonies that were given while we were there, from some of the folks that were explaining, what inspired them to come. And we had an evening devotion. And I noticed a theme that was really cool, and it hit me. It's complementing what Sean was talking about, that, Jason basically recruited some of these guys up here. And, he was after them. They were on the bubble about going, and he stayed on them about coming. And so what was really fascinating about that is they were very important to the success of this trip. And so each and every one of you, which was, surprising about, like he was saying, the work that was accomplished was pretty amazing. And so I could look at this particular team and go, wow, we really had a good team. And it was because of that, persistence of the recruitment, and that call is out there for you guys. And so I was thinking about that for next year. It's like, wouldn't it be cool if we really had a really big team that we could really get even more accomplished? So, but in this case, when I stepped on the property for the first time, I'd seen the photos of it, but when I stepped on the property and it hit me about, this is a place of restoration, and the beauty. I kept saying, I said it several times such a week, I'm like, wow, this property is an expensive piece of property. I'm like, my goodness, it's beautiful. Overlooking the city, which is exactly where those women would come from, or most likely from San Jose. And thinking, what the beauty, the peace, the presence of God upon the mountain. I mean, it was just amazing. And to think that these ladies would get to be in that facility, it was really touching. And to think about this team that was there, was just fantastic. You guys just rocked. It was amazing. So I'm proud of every one of them, man. It was just so awesome. Thank you guys for sending us. Thank you for your love and your support. It was just incredible, and I expect you guys to be there next year.
As I was walking up here, Vicki goes, "You brought your book." This has been my journal for a while, and as I was trying to figure out what to talk about, because there are so many experiences on this trip, Jason reminded me, 2 minutes, Mel. And then Vicki was sitting beside me on the airport, and she's like, "I think you have more than 2 minutes on your piece of paper." But from the moment that I knew that we were going to Costa Rica, I felt in my heart that God was going to do some extraordinary things while we were down there. It was just going to be an amazing trip. And to know that we were an integral part of the very first rescue center for women and children of human trafficking, it's a very humbling and it's a very big blessing. After what I thought was a near-death experience walking up the mountain, that was no hill. I literally got halfway up and I was like, okay, I can't breathe. I'm just shutting down at the moment. It wasn't just, a nice, calm walk. It was up a very rocky hill, and then we realized, oh, look, we're way above elevation. That's why I have no oxygen in me. But we walked out up top on the mountain, and like Derek said, it was just a beautiful piece of property. And the moment I stepped on there, I felt the presence of God with us. And I knew that this place was going to be a place of restoration and a place where women, Vicki and I were talking about it on the way up one day, that how this is a perfect place for them because it's away from the city. It's away from the everyday life that they're used to. They can get away and they can actually recuperate and be totally restored and not have to walk around and worry about the pimps or the guys or all these other things, all these other distractions. They can solely go there and focus on getting their lives back and getting a relationship with Jesus. The work was strenuous. At times I thought I could not shovel another piece of dirt. But God reminded me of what and why we were there. And I began to pray instead of going, I don't want to shovel anymore. I don't want to shovel anymore. God checked me on it. And so I said, with every scoop, I'm going to pray for every woman and every child that walks these grounds. I would pray that these women and children would know the love of our Heavenly Father, that their tests and their trials and experiences. I told Jason, I said, my eyes have gotten more leaky this week than ever before. But these tests and trials and experiences that they have gone through would catapult them, and they would be a testimony from their trials, and that they would be able to share their experiences with others, and that they would be the generational breakthrough, the generational curse, that they would break that. Because Amy was telling us when we were at Chica's, that most of the time it's a generational. The grandmothers have been in prostitution or human trafficking, and then the mothers, and then the daughters, because that's all they know. So I just prayed that this would be the generational curse breakthrough, that it would stop here and now. But we were blessed to be able to minister to the young ladies of Chica's de Promesa, and some of these young ladies have already been through things that we couldn't even imagine. I was talking to Amy. Some of the young girls that are in 5th grade have already been through human trafficking. They've already been sexually abused by every member of their family. But the center is based in one of the most violent cities in the area. even so that Amy and them, they pack up and they have to leave before 4 o'clock. Otherwise, they don't know if they're going to get out. But to be able to love on these young ladies and let them know that they have a purpose and a plan, and that the circumstances that they've been through and the place that they live, that doesn't define them, but their relationship with God and God's purpose and plan is their identity. They are daughters of a loving God who wants them to succeed. And, I was thinking, who knows, one of these ladies or young women may grow up to be the next Christine Kane or Beth Moore. And we have been an integral part of that. So it was a truly godly experience. And I challenge anyone who has ever thought about a missions trip. I'd always thought about it, thought, oh, that would be cool to go. Don't think about it. Just come and go on the next trip with us. Thank you.
All right, I kind of had 3 things that I wanted to, that were kind of highlights to me, so I'll see how many I can get done in 2 minutes. But the one thing that really meant a lot to me was when we went to Linda Vista. I know I'm going to cry, but we got to see the Chico house that they're going to be doing. It's actually attached to the school, and I don't know why. Right now it's just a building that they need to do a lot of renovation to. But talking to this lady Mary, this whole Chica program is kind of her baby. And we were talking, we couldn't get the gate locked, so we kind of got back there and we were working on the gate trying to get it locked. And so then her and I started talking, and she said, I know it doesn't look like much to people. Should they come in here? And they're kind of like, and I was like, oh no. I was like, you can see your vision. I mean, right now it's just a building that they have to work on. And, she wants to get the main area done first, because right now the boys, they do have the Chico program going, but it's just in like what looks like a jailhouse yard. It's got cement and bars, and so she wants to get the boys out of there as soon as possible. So she wants to get the main area done for them in this house so that she can get them out of that area there and give them she said she wants it open and just a place where the boys can play and have room, where the girls, the chicas, it's pretty and pink, and they've got cute little tables with flowers, and they can do projects and crafts. And she's like, I just want it to be open and inviting for the boys, that they can come and they can have a place that they can call their own. So I thought that was really, really cool. And the other thing real quick is that meeting David and Amy and Bob and Michelle, I just think it's so awesome how God, when we're the body of Christ and we work together, God lays on each of our hearts. And if we're obedient to him, because David and Amy are both nurses. And in nursing, it's more like the healthcare prevention. And so they were on the side of, their hope is to get these younger girls, before they get into prostitution, to show them that there's something else, because it is the generational thing, to show them that there's another way. And then Bob and Michelle are on the other side, where they're rescuing, rehabilitating, and they're great friends, their families are great friends, their daughters are friends. But how God brought them together in this one area. They didn't know each other, but God brought them together, and they're working on the different sides for the same cause, for the same goal. So I just thought that was really cool, just to meet them, hear their visions, and just how they were brought together like that. And then the last thing was just the church service on Sunday. Of course, we didn't understand 99% of what they were saying, but just how everywhere in the world, God is just moving and working, and you didn't need to understand the words. You could just feel the power and the presence of the Holy Spirit. You could feel the love. We got to pray with people, and it was amazing. So.
I'm one of the G-men, so I'm going to sit down. I'm tired. Going on missions and helping people has been something I've thought about since college, and I've been thinking about it more lately. We have a couple of missionaries in Nicaragua that one of them has been encouraging us to come down. So when this trip came up, I thought this would be a good opportunity to go down. And I tell you, I've got to know these guys. We've been coming here for a couple of years, but I've got to know them more in a week than, I don't know, I could go here 10 more years and not get to know them like I do now. So that's been a good experience. And, you know, I was thinking about what all we did down there. We dug foundations, we chipped walls, we painted, and I did all three of those. And, you know, it kind of lines up with our spiritual life in that we get saved through Jesus Christ, and that's our foundation. And then the chipping starts. You know, sometimes you got a 1/4 inch you need to chip off. Sometimes you got a 1/2 inch. Sometimes you got 1.5 inches. And I don't know how many hammers God's broke on me. And then, you know, eventually he's going to paint us. He paints us with his righteousness. And he sets us up and puts us in place in his kingdom and in the church there. So that's kind of what I brought away from it.
Follow that now. Oh, well, this was my first missions trip, and my name's Caleb, by the way. And Jason's made me his official missions trip intern. And he made me feel good at first because he told me I was the best missions intern he's ever had, but then everyone told me I was the only intern he's ever had. So I didn't feel as good anymore. But anyways, about 7 months ago, Jason stood up here and he talked about the missions trip that we just went on, and he encouraged everyone in the congregation, if you've ever thought about going on a missions trip, then it's for you. And I sat back there and I thought about it, and anyways, Jason really encouraged me to go on this, and I'm sorry. Yeah. And I just feel like this whole experience was an eye-opener, and we're just, as we remember today, this day, September 11th, and what it means to us. Before I went, this was the first time I've ever been out of the country, and I had someone at work ask me, he says, well, there's plenty of people hurting in this country. Why don't you do more stuff here? And I didn't really have an answer for him, and I told Jason about this. But after going down to Costa Rica, it's a beautiful country. But until you go down there, once I went down there, we're blessed to live in this country. And going down there was a real eye-opener. And I kind of understand why we go to other countries now, because we really are blessed. So I just really enjoyed it, and I just really like to encourage anybody who's ever thought about going to it costs money to go, but God provided a way for me to go. And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but he made it happen. And if you ever thought about going, just go. Don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just pray, and if it's meant to be, it'll happen.
So I'm going to interrupt the sharing because Caleb makes us all cry. He did it to us down there in Costa Rica too. So Caleb outed me on stage. I didn't know he was going to do that. I did make Caleb the first ever missions intern. And I hadn't told many people this, but Caleb actually served a very important function on our team. One of the things that I've learned about teams is when we get away, we all get homesick. We got good families and good friends and good homes, and we all get to missing you all. And if you can get the team to bond around something, then it kind of serves as a distraction from the homesickness. So Caleb was my roommate, and I learned real quick he's got an amazing sense of humor, and I knew he could take it. So we immediately made him my intern, which meant that he was something a little bit less than a human. And he would hear things yelled from the front of the bus like, "Intern, are you back there thinking again? Quit thinking." Or there may have been times in the hole when he was digging and he'd start getting mouthy and I'd throw a shovel load of my dirt into his hole. There may have been a time when Sean and Melanie filled his head full of ideas that he was human, and I'd have to remind him that, you know, when you get saved, them people in the world, they try and tell you that Jesus isn't good for you. You just got to listen to Jesus, man. You got to stay committed, so don't let them people put bad ideas in your head. So Caleb, since you endured that so well this week, we talked to Heather and found out that these are two of your favorite treats, and we wanted to make you, we wanted to award you these as the greatest missions intern we've ever had. I know he kept me from getting us homesick, so I appreciate it, buddy. You served us all well. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
I've always said I wasn't ever going to go out of the country where we weren't protected of our U.S. government. And I don't know what sparked me to go. But it got more real, and God made the way with the funds, and it's an experience that I or the rest of us will never forget. And it was just a good, fulfilling feeling to do something good and great.
Amen. I sure am glad he came too. Man, I tell you what, it's one hard worker right here, guys. He's awesome.
Now, Jason forgot to mention the part about the cement mixing, so I'm going to bring that up now.
Yeah, that's right.
The roads there are rather rough, and so some of us had to fill them in. All right, now, Jason, pay attention. This is how you keep it quick. The main thing I wanted to talk about was actually an idea that came into my head before we even left. And the background on it was, as many of you know, I was in the Army for a few years. And there were a lot of times where I'd be sitting out there in the field or wherever we were at and think, man, I wish I could just go somewhere and be there forever. And not travel, not pack up and go randomly to somewhere else. But I was thinking about David and Amy, Roberto, Michelle, and their kids, and how they just packed up and went. Because God said go. And so as I sit here, it's no actually stand here today, it's just like, why do we tell God no? Why don't we just go where he's at? So that's my point for today.
So my memorable moment happened almost immediately when we got there. So Sunday morning we're in church, and the pastor asked that if anybody had a need to come down to the front. So almost the entire congregation was at the front. And we were given the opportunity to pray with some of these people. So those of you who know me know that I'm not the kind of person that's going to come down to the front and just, it's just not something I've done. I don't have a lot of experience in it. So I felt God was pulling at my heart to just go up there, pray with these people. So as I'm praying, I'm telling him, or I'm asking God to bless them like he's blessed me. So as we're done praying, I start walking back to my seat, and an older lady, she wraps her arms around my neck and starts praying for me. And it was just, it's a moment I'll never forget. I could really tell how much she appreciated us and how much she loved Christ. Thank you.
For those that don't know me, I'm Casey, Sean's little sister. This is my second missions trip. The first one, didn't plan on going. Jason recruited. So when this one came around, I was excited about the opportunity when I decided to go. And like everybody said, it was hard work. I still have a blister, bruises, calluses. But every time, like Mel said, when the work got hard, you sat there and realized what we were doing. Like, there's so many women that are going to be saved from all our manual labor. It was worth it. I would go back and do it again. As for the chipping was horrible. I would rather dig 10 times as much dirt as I did than chip. But like everybody said, if you get the chance, go on a missions trip. It will be a life-changing experience that you will not regret, and you will want to do it again and again and again.
Ditto. That was not on the list. It was more than hello. No, we've all heard about the chicas and the chicos and the digging and the digging and the digging. But really what mainly stood out to me is we spent a whole week with each other, and I roomed with people that I had not really spent a lot of time with, and you build, it's a different kind of bond. It's not just a friendship, because you've served and you've worked together. We've cried a lot. So we've laughed, we've cried, we've all picked on the intern together. But it was a great experience, and I am very blessed to be able to work with our awesome team.
So I think, I'm definitely the youngest one that came on this trip, and I am. It's true. And I think my experience was just a little bit different because of that. Sean talked about how his theme for the week was foundations, but I think mine for the week was boundaries and kind of obstacles. So I feel like a lot of times we try to take God and all his majesty and all his glory, and we try to put him in this tiny little box. And this week, God showed me how there's no box we can think of that can contain him. There's no parameters we can set in our mind that will limit him. So I know like a tiny bit of Spanish, and this week I used some of it, but it's really limited. Like, I like cats, and I like dogs, and I have a sister, and I have a brother. But as soon as I talk to these people, and I'm like, yeah, I know a little bit of Spanish, they would just start going on and on and on and on and on. And I'm like, no, I don't know that much. But even on Sunday, I realized that what little Spanish I know doesn't even matter, because God can work through that. God can work through me being the youngest one here. He can work through the language barrier. The Holy Spirit moves wherever God is, no matter what language you're speaking or what denomination you are. And we really saw that throughout the whole week. On Sundays where it started and didn't even end until we left. And I saw it again when we were with chicas and working with the 5th graders. And before the whole, it was like a 2-hour session, so we did a lesson, and then we did a craft, and then they had a snack, and we had a little bit of time after the snack, and they got really excited, and they were like, we're going to go dress up, and we're going to dance for you, and it's going to be great. We're like, okay. So they sat us down in a little audience, and they just started dancing to this Christian song, but it was in Spanish. And they had the choreographed dance, and at the end they just grabbed all of us and they took us up there, and we were dancing with them, and it was just the best part of the whole week. But that really spoke to me that God can reach through whatever we think our limitations are, and he can do so much more. Amen.
So we have 4 members of our team that attend Freedom Center in Anderson, and they're not with us this morning. Obviously, they missed their families and wanted to be in their church this morning, but we don't want to forget them. I know Sean referenced them. It's Dave and Lynn Owens, John Pominville, and Jim Lance, and they were a tremendous blessing to our team. They were Jim and David and Lynn have traveled with us on at least one trip. Jim's been with us on all three, and they're great friends in the faith, and we have enjoyed working with Freedom Center, and we look forward to bringing more churches into what we do, because we believe the body of Christ is bigger than here at 1089 Edward Street. We believe it's all over the world, and so we want as many people to come with us as possible. Now, I told this group Friday night that I was going to brag on them, and so I bragged a little bit, but I really want to brag, especially on the G-men, and for those of you who don't know what that means, they named themselves, so don't get mad at me about it, but we had a few fellas they've crossed over some hill in their life, and they refer to themselves as the geriatric men. But I will tell you that in terms of ability and work ethic, the name is irrelevant. Especially our two guys, Kel and Terry. Man, these guys are machines. They didn't stop. I worried about them, and they told me, "Oh, we got this. No big deal." Terry kept looking at me and said, "It's just like shoveling out the horse stalls." I said, I don't know what kind of horses you got. 201 ton. I mean, sorry. But we really do have a very special team. It was echoed by the foreman on the job site. His name is Minor. He's a member of the Assemblies of God Church in Costa Rica. And he told Dave, our missionary, he said, "This is a good team." And to get that kind of compliment from a national is a big deal. They don't compliment us as much as you would think. But for him to step back and go, "This was a good team," that was a high compliment. And then Dave told me, he said, "You guys really are. We host teams, and we've seen a lot of different types of teams." He said, "You guys are really a great team. And what your church is doing for missions is a big deal." He said, "What you guys are, the culture you're creating, the things you're doing, it's big. It's bigger than you know." And so I want to bring that compliment back to our congregation, because we're the team that went, but we didn't go alone. And we know that you guys sent us, and we know that you guys prayed for us, and we know that you guys, without you, it could have been a whole lot more difficult. So we want to thank you for sending us. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you for allowing us to go do these things. And we ask that you continue, because there will be more trips. I'll be meeting sometime this month to figure out where we're going in 2017. That's next year, right? 2017, yeah. And to start building partnerships for that trip, even this month. So I'm asking that you consider, is the Lord telling you to come? Is the Lord inviting you to come partner with us in what we do? Now with that, we have what all of them really came here for today. Pastor, if you'll join me on stage, I give Pastor this honor. Those of you who haven't ever been here for this before, we have a missions t-shirt that is awarded to everyone who completes a missions trip. You have to go and come home to get one. We had some debate this year. If you come home in a box, we'll give your family one. But you do have to go and have to come home. I brought Terry back alive. I can say it. Kathy got all over me last Wednesday night. Said, "I can't believe you'd say that." And so I looked at Terry after we got done with our whitewater rafting trip on our Cultural Awareness Day. And I said, "Terry, I've kept you alive on a mountain for 4 days of heavy-duty construction. I've taken you zip lining. I've taken you whitewater rafting. If you don't make it now, it ain't my fault." So Pastor, I'll let you hand these out. I don't know who's. I guess I should have the bag. You can tell I planned this really well. It was 2 o'clock in the morning when we got here, because I don't know what names are on them. So, all right. So Sean Barnes. Oh, and Casey Booth. I about called you Casey Barnes. My apologies. Intern graduated to human being Caleb Graffam. Ryan Clausen. Danielle Matthews. Derek Matthews. Kel Gringa. Of the G-Men crew, Jonathan Mick. Miss Vicki Willie. Miss Emma Trevalier. Terry Talmadge, also of the G-Men crew. Miss Melanie Adams, the right hand.
Jason. Give them all another hand. Would you do that?